Well, hey friends, welcome back to my latest template. I'm really excited about this one because it's a very simple design, but it's just such a nice shape and it feels so nice in the hand. So just like my other templates, I do recommend you print at 100% scale. That's the size that it was designed for, and that's how you're going to get it as close to the cups that I have. But of course, just like all my other templates, you can size them up or down. By now, you know the drill, just cut them out. And for this template, we're going to be using one piece of each template shape. So T1, T2, and T3, you should cut out one of each of these. Tips for rolling out a slab. Well, I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it is so important. You want to use thickness gauges. I'm using a 1/2 centimeter thickness gauge. 1/2 centimeter is about 1/4 of an inch. And you want to roll out slowly, flipping as you go. And always, always, always compress your slab at the end. So here I am cutting out the pieces with a needle tool. And I do recommend you putting them in front of the fan for about 5 minutes is what I do, and I'll flip them halfway through. This way the template pieces are not super wet and they're not like as floppy as they otherwise would be, but it does depend on your clay and your climate. This is just what works best for me. So we're gonna start with the main body of the cup, and for this you want to connect the two ends, and I do recommend you cutting them at a 45-degree angle. I've got this nice little tool here, but of course you could also just use a needle tool or a knife, and you want to score them. If your clay needs it, if your clay is a little bit on the dry side, you might want to add some slip here, but I can just stick my pieces together because my slab is still pretty wet. So the great thing about cutting them at an angle here is you can see that we're having more overlap, which is going to create a much stronger seam in the end because you just have more surface area touching here. And what's great about this is that the seam should more or less disappear if you blend it long enough. And of course, don't forget to blend the inside. Okay, so we're going to move on to the base now. And with this template, as with all of my templates, the base is designed to be slightly bigger than it needs to be, and that's because you want to attach it first before cutting it out. So I'm just going to attach it here. I'm marking where it's going to sit, and then once again, I'll score both sides and stick them together. Next, you want to set that aside for a moment so it can homogenize, and in the meantime, we can work on the ring foot. So this is just like a mini cup, so we're just going to attach the ring foot exactly the same way. You want to cut each end at about a 45-degree angle and score and press together, slipping if needed. With these little guys, you do have to be more delicate for sure. Okay, we're gonna set the ring aside now, and we're going to smooth out the main body of the cup. So you can see here, there's not the best seam on the inside, so you can use a tool like this, a little rounded tool. I think of this tool as like a finger without a fingernail, because I would like to do this with my finger, but the fingernail will tend to scratch. So I really love this tool for things like that. And I also really like to go in with a paintbrush. That can really smooth out any cracks. So we're going in with a needle tool now to trim the base, and important here, you can notice the angle that I'm holding my needle tool. I'm kind of continuing that line all the way down and smoothing the base into the wall. You could cut it perfectly, but smoothing it in here does really help strengthen the seam. So I like to use any extra clay to smooth that in. And then we're gonna go back in with a straight edge rib to kind of carve off any extra bumps here to make that line really nice and perfect. You want to smooth here as much as you can, because this is the last time you're gonna have really easy access to the base because we're about to add the foot. So just make it up to the standard that you like. For adding the foot, you guys know the drill. Score both sides and put pressure to attach. I found smoothing the foot in a little bit tricky just because of the angle, so it's kind of hard to get your finger in there. Once again, my wooden tool came in handy, and I definitely wanted to smooth out the inside with a paintbrush. Okay, now it's just final touches. I want to make sure that the lip of my tea bowl is really nice and smooth so it feels really pleasant against the lips. And any imperfections you want to smooth out now before we let it dry. This design is just so nice. I just love it so much. It's my favorite. I am developing a few different templates right now, and this one is definitely my favorite. So for drying, of course, this very much depends on the weather in your area, like the humidity and the temperature. I always like to spend the first night with these pots underneath some plastic or some cloth so that they can slow down the drying. I will leave the cloth on for 24 hours. And what I forgot to show you guys is that I did flip them after that 24 hours. So I removed the cloth and then I flipped them upside down. You definitely want to do this because that's gonna help with any issues like cracking later on. You want to make sure it's drying evenly on all sides, including the bottom, and that's why we always flip. Okay, and then I'm just going to bisque them as usual. I'm doing a couple of different glazes and I will put them into the final fire. So if you're curious, this is stoneware clay and I'm bisquing at 900 degrees Celsius and doing my glaze fire at 1240. That's just what works for me, my clay, and my kiln. But of course, it depends on the clay and glazes that you're using, how you're going to fire. And here's the final result. I mean, I've just been gushing about these templates the whole time, but I really do love them. I think that they're so cute and I love how nicely they stack together. Oh my gosh, so cute. I will have this new template available for you guys down below in the description. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you love this template as much as I do. Till next time, bye friends.